we're going to talk about school, changes on PEI, train, and technology. I hope you enjoy this special.
I went to school in Freetown. Freetown was a little community next to Summerside, about 10 miles from Summerside.
What was your school like?
Our school, it was a little country school. We had 2 rooms, what they call a 2-room school. And classes grade 1 to grade 5 went into one room, and classes 6 to grade 10 went into another room. And there was just 2 teachers for the 2 rooms in all the classes.
How would that work? Would it be like, would some people go out for recess, or if did they have recess?
No, we had recess.
Would some people go out for recess, and then the teacher teaches like?
No, the teacher taught the 5 grades all at one time, and it was quite a chore for a teacher when you think they had to teach 5 different grades, and then there would be a recess mid-morning and a recess mid-afternoon, and we would all go out and play and together, and then the bell would ring or whatever, and we'd have to go back in again for the rest of the
How did you get to school?
afternoon or morning. How to get to school? We used to walk to school. We lived in the community, and the school was just next door, and we walked back and forth to school.
What was your favorite class?
In school?
Yeah.
My favorite class probably was arithmetic. I always enjoyed arithmetic. Didn't have any problem with it. Other classes I did have problems.
Could you explain arithmetic? Because we don't do that in our class yet.
Arithmetic?
Yeah.
Well, that's where you add, subtract, multiply. 10 times 12, do you know what that is? 10 times 12?
Oh, wait. 10 times 12 is 120.
That's right. Well, that's where you had to do all that type of thing.
Okay.
Mathematics.
Mathematics. That's probably a better word. My worst class I hated, but not at school. That's when I went to Prince Wales College, was Latin. Do you take Latin?
Not yet.
Okay. Are you going to be taking Latin?
If I have
Probably,
a chance, I might.
probably not.
I don't think they teach Latin anymore, and so God bless you. You don't have to take it.
If I
Probably
do,
not.
I
Why I
won't.
say it was
Is
my
that
worst course. I had to take get help in Latin.
Did you have homework?
Oh yes, we had homework. Every day we
Has
would
life
have homework.
changed on PEI since you were young?
Life changed a lot, because when I was young, we lived in a small community and had little transportation. I went to school in Kensington, which was next door to Freetown, about 5 miles from Freetown, and I took my years, grades 9 and 10, I guess it was, in Kensington. And how I got back and forth to Kensington was by train. We didn't have any, well, I wasn't driving a car then, and so we had to go get up in the morning, get the train, and go back and forth to school by train. So there's been a lot of changes. People getting around, transportation,
Never see a train
everything's
on
changed.
PEI.
Saw a train every day, twice a day. The train came into our little community in Freetown, and I went to school in the train. The mail came every day by train. There was a mail bag. The postmaster would go down and pick up the mail bag, and then he would take it back to his little store, and he'd sort the mail, and we'd go and pick up the mail. So yes, saw a train every day.
What do you think
It was
about
part of my way of life. I remember a former premier of the province, Walter Shaw, and I can remember him in an election campaign. He would shout out about the bridge, and he would say it was the greatest undertaking ever contemplated by mankind for the benefit of the people of the province of Prince Edward Island. And that was back in 1960, when the 60s, when they were starting the bridge, or talking about the bridge then. And it's proven to be that. It's changed the way of life in PEI. It's been good for the people, it's been good for business, good for industry, and good
Do you
for
think
tourism.
technology is important?
Well, you'd know more about that than I would, since I'm at an age where technology has passed me, and it has changed so much that at my age it's hard to figure it all out. But I guess it is important, because that's the way of life now, is technology. Man goes to the moon, and it wouldn't happen without
The
technology.
phone that you had down.
When I was young in the country, and everybody had a phone in their house if you were a subscriber, and there was about 18 people that were on our line, and the phone would ring, and our number was something like one long and two short. And if that rang, it would know it was to our house, and somebody would pick up the phone. But you knew when somebody picked up the phone, there'd be about 18 other people listening in on the line, and some people, in fact, made their day of listening to telephone calls, and that was the phone system back then. And it was what they call landlines, and now everybody's got their own phone.
Everyone listening in then, like kind of everyone listening in on Facebook now, I guess.
Probably so. Yeah, that was Facebook.
What,
Do you think
just to stay on this question for another one, we were watching a video the other night of you on the farm, and you made a comment about technology back then too. All the old ways you did things on the farm with the equipment.
Oh yeah, well, picking potatoes, we used to have to take 3 weeks off from school. The school closed down in the country for 3 weeks in the fall of the year to allow the students to go out and help pick potatoes. And my father grew 100 acres of potatoes back then, which was a lot of potatoes. He was one of the biggest potato growers there was in the area. And it would take us, if you picked 5 acres of potatoes a day with that whole crew of pickers, which would be probably about 20 pickers, if you picked 5 acres a day, that was a big day of picking. And that was from 7 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night. And today, they would, with all the machinery and the equipment and the technology that's gone with it, they would pick. They would harvest probably in an hour at least 5 acres of potatoes, more than 5 acres of potatoes, and with very little crew. So there's your change in technology.
Today they do it. Like you were saying, 100 acres they do in how many hours?
5 acres. That was a big day of picking. Sometimes it was like 3.5 acres, but the 5 acres was so on average I think it would be 4 acres. 4 acres. So it would take you 3 weeks of picking.
4 acres, 3 weeks of picking. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean for about 100 acres.
Or for 100 acres. Now it's all automated. Next question.
Do you feel like PEI is a better place to live today?
If you're picking potatoes, yes.
I guess it's a better place to live today. There's so many big changes, and it's not only a better place, but it's a pretty good place to live, especially for all the troubles that are going on in the world today, and we don't have that kind of troubles yet here.
We're sheltered from all the problems of the world, but we have our own, I guess. In some small
That's
way.
their comment, yeah. The more you appreciate the living here, because it's a pretty good place to live when you compare to all the troubles that is going on now in other parts of the world, which you read about and hear about every day.
Okay. And that's
That a wrap?
Yeah.
All right. What do you say to Grandpapa, Granddad?
I get paid for this, though, all right?
Take two. 'Cause you guys did a few conversations in the middle of all
Do
those.
I get paid for this?
Thank you for taking the time to help me with this project.
Thank you, Dalton, for asking me, and it's been a real challenge to go back and have to remember things that happened so many years ago. And